If you're married, divorced, or even thinking about retirement, this is one video you absolutely need to watch until the end. Because today, we're talking about one of the most misunderstood but incredibly important topics, the 10-year Social Security rule. This rule could have a major impact on how much money you receive from Social Security in retirement. And it's not just for couples who are still together, it can also apply to those who are divorced, widowed, or remarried. So if you've ever been married, or plan to be, you'll want to know exactly how this works. Now, most people have heard bits and pieces about Social Security spousal benefits. Maybe you've heard that you can get half of your spouse's benefit. Maybe you've heard that even if you're divorced, you can still get benefits from your ex's record. But how does that actually work? What are the rules? What are the exceptions? And how do you make sure you don't miss out on thousands of dollars in lifetime benefits simply because you didn't understand the system? That's what we're going to break down today. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the 10-year rule is, who qualifies, and how to use it to maximize your Social Security benefits. Let's start with the basics. The 10-year rule is part of the Social Security spousal and divorced spouse benefit system. In simple terms, it says that if your marriage lasted at least 10 years, you could be eligible to receive Social Security benefits based on your spouse's or ex-spouse work record. That means even if you never worked a full career or didn't earn as much as your spouse, you may still be entitled to a portion of their benefits. Here's the most interesting part: if you're divorced, and your marriage lasted 10 years or longer, you can still receive benefits based on your ex-spouse's record, and they'll never know. It doesn't affect their benefits at all, and it doesn't reduce what their current spouse receives. The government pays it separately. So this rule was created to protect people who may have spent years supporting a household or raising children, even if they didn't pay as much into Social Security themselves. It ensures that one spouse isn't left financially vulnerable later in life. Now let's talk about who qualifies for this benefit. To claim benefits based on your spouse or ex-spouse record, there are several key requirements. First, your marriage must have lasted at least 10 years, that means from your wedding date to the official date of your divorce decree. 9 years and 11 months doesn't count. It has to be a full 10 years or more. Second, you must be currently unmarried to collect on an ex-spouse record. However, if you remarried and that later marriage ended, either by divorce, annulment, or death, you can again qualify to collect from your first spouse's record. Third, both you and your ex-spouse must be at least 62 years old for you to qualify. You cannot collect a spousal benefit from an ex who hasn't yet reached 62. And finally, the benefit you're eligible for must be higher than what you would receive from your own work record. If your own Social Security benefit is larger, you'll get that instead. Now let's talk about how much money this can actually mean. A divorced or current spouse can receive up to 50% of their spouse's full retirement age benefit. So if your ex-spouse's full benefit at their full retirement age, say 67, is $2,000 per month, you could qualify for up to $1,000 per month based on their record. That's a pretty big deal, especially if you didn't work as much or had a lower income. For some people, this can literally double the amount of Social Security income they receive. Here's another key point: your ex-spouse will never know that you're collecting this benefit. Social Security doesn't notify them, it doesn't affect their payments, and it doesn't impact what their current spouse or family receives. These are separate, individual payments handled confidentially. They later divorced, but since they were married more than 10 years, Susan can claim a divorced spouse benefit based on Mark's record once she turns 62. If she waits until her full retirement age, she can receive half of Mark's full benefit, that's $1,200 per month, instead of the $800 she'd get from her own record. Now, let's go a little deeper and talk about how the timing of your claim affects your benefits. If you start taking Social Security early, at age 62, your monthly payment will be reduced permanently. That's true for both your own benefit and any spousal or divorced spouse benefit. If you wait until your full retirement age, which is usually 66 or 67 depending on when you were born, you'll receive the full 50% spousal benefit. If you delay your benefits past full retirement age, your own benefit will increase, up to age 70, but the spousal benefit will not. Spousal and divorced spouse benefits do not increase after full retirement age. So there's no reason to delay past that point if you're only collecting a spousal benefit. Let's look at an example to make this clearer. Imagine Susan and Mark were married for 15 years. Mark was the higher earner, he worked full-time, paid into Social Security for decades, and at full retirement age, he's eligible for a $2,400 monthly benefit. Susan, on the other hand, worked part-time for a few years but spent most of her time raising their children. Based on her own work record, she's eligible for only $800 per month. That's a $400 increase per month for life, and it doesn't reduce Mark's benefit one bit. He still gets his full $2,400, and Susan gets $1,200 from the Social Security Administration. Now let's talk about remarriage, because this is where people often get confused. If you remarry before the age of 60, you generally lose your eligibility to collect benefits based on your ex-spouse's record, because now you have a new spouse's record you might qualify under. However, if that later marriage ends, whether through divorce or death, you can again qualify to claim benefits from your previous spouse as long as that marriage lasted at least 10 years. If you remarry after age 60, or age 50 if you're claiming survivor benefits, it may not impact your eligibility at all. So timing matters a lot. Another part of this rule applies to survivor benefits. If your spouse or ex-spouse passes away, you may be entitled to survivor benefits based on their record, as long as your marriage lasted at least 10 years. Survivor benefits can be as high as 100% of your spouse's full benefit amount, which means if your spouse was receiving $2,000 per month, you could receive the full $2,000 as their survivor. This rule provides an additional layer of financial protection, especially for widows and widowers. Now let's talk about something that can really make a difference, working with the right timing strategy. Let's say you're eligible for both your own Social Security and an ex-spousal benefit. Social Security will automatically pay you the higher of the two amounts, not both. But here's the strategy: if you were born before January 2, 1954, you might still be eligible to file a restricted application, which lets you claim spousal benefits first while letting your own benefit grow until age 70. Then you can switch later and collect your higher personal benefit. Unfortunately, this rule was phased out for most people born after that date. But for those who still qualify, it can be an incredible financial advantage. Now let's answer some of the most common questions people have about the 10-year rule. Question 1. What if my ex-spouse hasn't applied for Social Security yet? Good question. If your ex is eligible for Social Security, meaning they're at least 62, and your divorce was finalized at least 2 years ago, you can still apply for divorced spouse benefits even if your ex hasn't filed yet. Question 2. What if my ex has remarried? That doesn't affect your eligibility. You can still claim based on their record, and their current spouse can too. Both of you can receive benefits, and neither of you reduce the other's amount. Question 3. Can both spouses collect benefits from the same worker's record? Yes, ex-spouses, current spouses, and even survivors can all receive benefits at the same time from one person's earnings record, as long as they each meet the requirements. Now let's talk about how this rule fits into retirement planning. Social Security is one of the few sources of guaranteed lifetime income. Understanding how to maximize it, especially through spousal or divorced spouse benefits, can make a big difference in your long-term financial security. For many divorced individuals, the 10-year rule can mean the difference between struggling to make ends meet or having a more comfortable retirement. It's especially important for women, since historically they've earned less and spent more years out of the workforce. Here's something to remember: you don't need your ex-spouse's permission to apply for these benefits. You simply provide the Social Security Administration with proof of your marriage, your divorce decree, and your ex's identifying information like their Social Security number and date of birth. Now, let's talk about potential mistakes people make that can cost them money. Mistake number 1, waiting too long to apply. You can apply for divorced spouse benefits as soon as you're eligible, but you don't receive back pay beyond 6 months. So waiting too long means leaving money on the table. Mistake number 2, assuming you don't qualify because you've been divorced for years. It doesn't matter how long ago you divorced. If your marriage lasted 10 years and you meet the other criteria, you're still eligible. Mistake number 3, thinking that claiming on an ex's record hurts their benefits. It doesn't. Your benefit is calculated separately by Social Security. And mistake number 4, not planning ahead for remarriage. Getting remarried before age 60 could mean losing eligibility for a higher benefit based on your ex's record, so always consider the timing and financial impact. Now, let's talk briefly about what happens if you and your ex both qualify for benefits. Let's say both of you have worked and paid into Social Security. Each of you can claim your own benefits separately. But if one person's benefit is higher, the other can receive a top-up amount to bring them up to 50% of the higher benefit. For example, if your own benefit is $900 and your ex's full retirement benefit is $2,000, half of that would be $1,000. Social Security would pay you your $900 plus an extra $100 spousal top-up to equal that 50% level. Here's one more thing that's important to understand. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your own work history first. They always look at that before considering spousal or divorced spouse benefits. Once your benefit is calculated, they compare it to the amount you'd receive as a spouse or divorced spouse, and then they automatically pay you the higher of the two. So there's no double dipping, but you always get the better option. Now let's recap everything in plain language. If you were married for 10 years or more, are currently unmarried, and are at least 62 years old, you can qualify to collect Social Security benefits based on your ex-spouse's work record, even if they've remarried, even if they don't know, and even if you've been divorced for decades. You can get up to 50% of their benefit amount while they're alive, and up to 100% if they've passed away. It doesn't affect their payments, and it doesn't affect their new spouse. It's completely separate. The key things to watch for are the 10-year marriage duration, your marital status at the time you claim, and your age. So here's the bottom line. The 10-year rule is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood parts of Social Security. Whether you're still married, divorced, or widowed, it can make a significant difference in your financial stability during retirement. If you think you might qualify, it's worth calling the Social Security Administration and confirming your eligibility. It doesn't cost anything to apply, and it could mean hundreds of extra dollars per month, every month, for the rest of your life. So don't let confusion or assumption stop you from getting the benefits you've earned. If this video helped you understand the 10-year Social Security rule better, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be covering more Social Security and Medicare topics that can help you make smart decisions before retirement.